Tyreek Hill not playing tonight, which shouldn't be alarming, but it's the combination of last year walking out on the team, this year Tua Tagovailoa and saying it's going to be a healing process for him, myself, and the whole entire team. Tyreek Hill's been out with this oblique injury a whole lot in this preseason. And from what I'm understanding, Vlad, and I don't have that much knowledge, but from what I'm understanding, Tua and Tyreek aren't exactly getting along in camp. Is it time to start saying, uh-oh, we might be in some trouble? Because I've said all year, one of the barometers of this team is Tyreek Hill. If Tyreek Hill balls out, this team is going to be very good. If Tyreek Hill 3 weeks in says, you know what, screw this, I want to be traded, we're in some trouble.
Big trouble.
Right now, I feel as though we're walking tightrope. And you say Tyreek Hill said everything right during camp. He said he needs to be more of a leader. I don't know if he said everything right, although the part about I'm taking notes for the first time in my career and I'm going to dedicate myself 100% for the first time in my career, that was a little offsetting because you should be taking notes and giving 100% yourself.
Right. He was just saying things just to say things. And then he also said he was also voicing his opinion about what players should be in certain plays, certain goal line stands, and all of that. So, yeah, he's trying to make amends, but he's also voicing his opinion in ways where it could be, if not explained right, it could be taken wrong, because then you have to ask Devon Achane about what he does mean by that, and then he has to answer that. And it seems to me after 3-4, this is his fourth season, right?
Right.
They're getting sick and tired of answering Tyreek questions.
Now they just get to the point Tyreek is Tyreek. He is who he is. He's going to be himself. They don't even get into it anymore. I'm starting to worry about that expiration date, Vlad.
Oh, bro, this is what, didn't I tell you this last year when I said both Jimmy and Tyreek, you're in a situation where you're gonna have to give these guys money, a contract extension, and all of a sudden now you're stuck with a fan base and personnel that do not know. The fan base wants the player to stay there because they've seen the success with the player and how the players brought more notoriety to the franchise. But then it gets to a point where the talent is not worth the consequence. And this is where we're at right now with Tyreek. And I think a lot of people are seeing that with Tyreek, because if you notice, this is probably the lowest expected output from Tyreek in his 10 years in the NFL. I can't recall the last time people expected him, especially in fantasy, that he's on. They expect him to get less than 1,000 yards. That's crazy. Because at least he's still 30 at 31. He's still, to me, a top 5 receiver. But for the expectations for him to get under 1,000 receiving yards, you have to look at the fact that I believe, Dan, that Dolphin Brass put his name out there in the trading blocks, and they did not like what they heard in response to a trade package. I don't think they liked what they were hearing, because you would think with Tyreek's name, Tyreek's stature, second, third round, if you're you can, if you could gain, you could sweet talk somebody, you might be able to get a first round.
Ooh.
And I think a lot of the teams looked at him like, at his age, he's not worth the risk. And I think that's a problem right now.
And he's always getting in trouble. And say he's cleaned up his act this year. Well, we say it all the time. Cheetah don't change his spots.
Everybody changes their act when it's time to get paid.
Right. And I also say this. Everybody on the first day of school says, I'm going to be the best student. I'm going to be the suavest guy or girl at school. I'm going to pick up all the guys and girls. I'm going to be the smartest student. I'm going to commit myself. And they mean it. Don't get me wrong. They mean it. And I think Tyreek Hill's he means it. He wants to be a leader. He wants to be, focused on the game. But saying it at the beginning of the camp, you got to prove it throughout the whole season. And we know, That's one of those things. I'm starting to worry, Vlad. I'd say my worry level on a scale of 0 to 100, 0 being, of course, lowest, 100 being the highest. My worry level's maybe higher than most, but I'm at like 70% worried right now about this
Well, I
Tua
want to know the
Tyreek's.
injury. I want to know what the injury
It's an
is.
oblique.
Okay, so now that's hearing. Now we've been hearing a lot about oblique. Now, is it an
Right.
injury that if the season starts, he can play through it with it? Or is this an injury that's going to be hampering? Because now this is when I'm going to start getting a little.
Okay, I'm gonna give you another.
No. I'm going to start.
Vlad,
Let me
another
finish.
little telltale sign.
Let me finish this. This is when I'm going to start looking at management, because he got paid already.
Mm-hmm.
If he's banged up, you
Hmm.
want him healthy. So are you going to? Do you want him to be there in the beginning of the season and not be there maybe at 100% and not giving you his best?
Because we know what not 100% Tyreek Hill gets you. 950 yards, basically. Almost 1,000. Another thing, Vlad, maybe it'll concern you a little more. Mike McDaniel has not spoken much about Tyreek Hill. And we know Mike McDaniel, he loves to talk about things he wants to talk about. He does not like talking about things that bother him, a.k.a. Jalen Ramsey. Why haven't we heard that much from Mike McDaniel about Tyreek Hill?
Shoot him some bail, maybe, because that's everybody knows that's the number one guy. Other than him and two are the two guys that people talk about with this franchise. So, and the fact that it's easy, Tyreek's almost easy. You can make up a story about Tyreek and people are going to talk about it. So if you neutralize it by not mentioning his name or mentioning anything about him, then therefore the media will not ask questions outside of the usual. Is Tyreek healthy enough to practice? How long do you expect him to be out? That sort of things. Now, when you get into the, doesn't seem like Tua and Tyreek have a great relationship. While it's absolute fair for the media to ask, the coaching staff or the players don't have to answer that.
No.
And they probably get a little bit annoyed about it because your mindset and focus is about the season, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like you thinking about September 7th. You don't want to be talking about your man. Like, damn, put it this way, bro. If I'm out and about, or you're out and about, you're always out and about, right? More so than I am, a little bit more, right? So, but we're outside.
Yep.
If you're outside at not Gatsby, at Duffy's one day, shout out to Gatsby's back in the day, my man. That was a great spot. Joe and Mark show. Shout out to our boy Virgil Viagra. If you're out there at Duffy's, right, and they're like, "Oh, great show, Dan. I love listening to you," and they constantly asking you about, "Hey, what's going on with Vlad?" And say I had beef with Len. What's going on with Vlad and Len?
I'd be like, I really don't want to talk about that right now.
Right?
That doesn't really bother or concern me very much.
Even though I could have talked about it, even if
it bothers me, I don't want to talk about it away from work.
Right. Even if other shows talked about it. Right. And they know you're my boy.
Right.
But they're constantly asking you about me, something that has to do with me.
Right.
I can understand if you get upset and frustrated because it's like, well, why are you asking me questions that has nothing to do with me?
Right. Well, no. I mean, and I do get it all the time, and I understand that's what. Look, Chris Perkins from the Sun Sentinel came on one of the shows the other day and said this team has done addition by subtraction. They're trying to get rid of the distractions. They're trying to get rid of people or players they feel as though it's detrimental to the team. So they might not be as good on paper as they were last year, but they might be a better team because they have more camaraderie and they have more stick-to-itness and more toughness. And I'll tell you this as a Dolphins fan, that doesn't make me overly excited, but what it does give me, Vlad, is your favorite four-letter word. Well, maybe not your favorite. Don't give me your favorite four-letter word. Your favorite FCC appropriate four-letter word. What is that word, Vlad?
Hope.
Yes, it gives me hope.
We all have that right now. We all have hope up until 1 p.m. Sunday, September 7th.
I'm ready to roll.
Everybody has
I'm ready
hope.
to roll tonight at 7 o'clock.
Everybody has hope until, there's a Cricket number on the left hand of the column, right under the L.
What a nice 0 and a round number.
Hey, if you have a round number on there after week 1 at 444 Sunday afternoon, September 7th. If you still got a zero there, your hope intensifies.
ESPN released their most watchable and least watchable 1 through 31. Was it 132 teams in the NFL? They
It's
released their
32.
32, 1 through 32 most to least watchable teams. The Dolphins fell right there at 18, right in the middle, Vlad, as you would expect. They said the drama lines with Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa interesting, but they're unbearable to watch if they have injuries. When Tua gets injured, when A-Chain gets injured or is injured, this team is very, very hard to watch. So they fell right in the middle. Right below them, the Indianapolis Colts. Let's get ready for week 1. Should be fun.
See, I may be I don't know. Maybe I don't think the Dolphins are bad as everybody's making it seem out to be. Like I'm hearing it, and you would think as a fan of your ops, I would be, and I'm like, nah, Pete Prisco, you kind of short selling this team. Like I see a lot of teams thinking that the Dolphins are gonna be a last place team. I'm like, I don't think that. I'm not high on the Patriots that everybody is.
No, I think the Dolphins are capable of they're not capable of winning 15 games. They're also not capable of only winning 5 games. I think they're somewhere in between. I personally think they're going to win 10, but once again, I have that 4-letter word right now in my vocabulary that I love to lean on, and that's hope. I have hope that things will work out. They'll be healthier. Anthony Weaver will scheme up some defense. Mike McDaniel will get back to his offense. Tua will be throwing bombs to Tyreek. They'll figure it all out. It'll be good.
One word, 4 letters, has an O and an E, and it leads you to a lot of trouble.
I've got
It leads you to the delusions of grandeur. And that's hope.